Hello everyone, I found the idea for these little hot dog puppy buns on Pinterest, and I'll put a link in the description box to the original idea. Now you can use whatever bread recipe you want to make these. The one I'm using on your screen is the one I've used for the panda bread as well as the rainbow bread. That's 1 cup of milk and 1 egg yolk that I whisk together. Then I heat it in the microwave until it is warm to the touch. Then I add 2.5 tablespoons of white granulated sugar, 3/4 of a tablespoon of salt, and an envelope of active dry yeast, instant active dry yeast, which is about 2¼ teaspoons, and 1.5 tablespoons of butter. Stir that until it's all combined, and then you're going to add 3 cups of flour, a little bit at a time, starting off with, let's say, about 1/2 cup, and continue to add flour and stir until the dough starts to chase your spoon around the bowl. When you get to that point, tip the dough out onto the counter, add some more flour, and start to knead the dough. Continue to add flour and continue to knead about 5 or 10 minutes. You may or may not use up all the flour that you've measured out. You may not use up all 3 cups, but it'll be pretty close. You'll get to the point where it won't be sticky anymore and it'll become smooth and quite elastic. When you reach to that point, you know that you're done, and you're just going to cover it and set it aside to rest about 15 minutes. Once the dough has rested, you're going to cut it into portions. Now, one of these dough recipes will make about 10 buns at about the right size. I ended up with 9 for some reason, I guess just the way that I cut it. But I think the ideal would be about 10, but the portion size is really completely up to you, of course. So once you've cut up the dough into little individual portions, take each dough ball and roll it between your hands and place it on a greased cookie sheet or one that's been covered with a silicone mat. Now, the recipe that I was following says at this point you should cover these little dough balls with some lightly dampened paper towels and then let it rest again. But I found the dampened paper towels stuck like crazy to the little dough balls when I tried to remove them. So what I would suggest is use some plastic wrap, spray the plastic wrap with a little bit of cooking spray, and use that to cover the dough balls. Until when you let them rest, the gluten develops in the dough and it just makes it a lot easier to work with. And you'll notice right away that the dough feels a little less elastic and a little bit softer. Form the little dough balls into a nice oval shape. And then take a sharp knife and make 2 cuts on each end, just like that. And those will be the puppy ears. Lift them up a little bit. Then take them and put them back on the cookie sheet. There they all are. Now you're going to cover these once again with some greased plastic wrap. And you're going to put them in a warm place and let them rise until they are doubled in size. What I do is I put mine in my oven and I just put the oven light on, and it makes for a nice warm place that way. Then for the eyes and nose, use some black beans out of a can and just press them into the dough for eyes and a little nose. And then you're going to bake these at 375 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes until they are golden brown. Now, I noticed when I took these out that the beans seemed to have cracked and the coating on the bean peeled off, and it didn't look very good. So what I did is I just kind of pried them out with a knife and I added some fresh canned beans just so that they looked a lot better. If you don't want to use beans, you could also use raisins for this. And once they're cool completely, you can cut them in half and either make just plain sandwiches with them, or you could use them as hot dog buns as well. And there they are. These really turned out well. When I make these again, what I'm going to do is use a different recipe. This bread recipe is great for sliced bread, but not so great for hot dog buns. I like hot dog buns that are a lot fluffier and a lot softer, so I might try a different recipe, but otherwise they turned out great and I was really happy with them. So why don't you give them a try?